So Robert F. Kennedy Jr. was in court today defending himself against a Democratic group, a PAC. This PAC is supportive of Democratic candidates, and they're basically suing him, saying that he should be removed from the ballot. Now, why do they think he should be removed from the ballot? They're saying that he lied. So this all comes down to two issues. The first one is Nicole Shanahan. So the rule is in the 12th Amendment of the Constitution is that the presidential candidate and the vice presidential candidate cannot come from the same state. They must come from different states. It's not quite explicitly stated that way, but essentially it could get to that if there's a certain issue with the Electoral College. It could come down to a candidate being disqualified because their running mate is from the same state. So a lot of times candidates don't even want to risk that. So they end up with choosing somebody from a different state. Kennedy chose somebody from California. Kennedy lives in California. He lives just down the street from me, actually, or, I don't live in that nice of a neighborhood. He lives in the fancy neighborhood down the street from me, down the hill from me. But he lives in California. He's been living in California since 2014, since he married Cheryl Hines. Nicole Shanahan is from California. She's from Silicon Valley, right? She's a Silicon Valley tech person. These two are from the same state. In order to avoid that constitutional crisis that could happen if they win or if they're close to winning and they don't want to trigger that 12th Amendment provision that says you can't be from the same state, Kennedy started listing his residence as, according to this lawsuit, as New York. So when he was filing for ballot access, and in particular in New York, now I don't know if he's going to have this problem in other states, but when he was filing in New York, he stated that he lived in New York that he was renting a place, it seems, and that is being challenged in court. So this Democratic PAC came around. It's the Clear Choice PAC, which is a super PAC led by supporters of Democratic President Joe Biden, who now support, of course, Kamala Harris. They assert that he wasn't living in New York, that this is in fact a lie. Let me just read a little bit to you of what happened in court today. Kennedy sat at his attorney's table in court in Albany, New York, occasionally jotting down notes and conferring with his lawyers as two old friends testified that he'd been their house guest, but not their tenant in New York's Westchester County from 2014 to 2017. Kennedy declined to comment during a court break, but said he would speak to reporters after court was done for the day. The suit seek to invalidate his New York nominating petition. The case was brought by Clear Choice PAC, the super PAC led by Democratic President Joe Biden. Monday's first witness was David McKellies, who testified that he used to host Kennedy regular as a guest through 2017 at his Westchester home about 40 miles north of Midtown Manhattan. McKellies was handed a court document in which Kennedy said his friend and landlord, McKellies, requested that he move out of that house in March of 2023, since McKellies was a supporter of President Joe Biden. McKellies called that statement a fiction and said Kennedy was never his house tenant. He said he last saw Kennedy in Los Angeles around 2019. So he says that he rented a room or rented a place or something from his friend. His friend says that's not true. I wasn't renting him a place. And Kennedy's saying, yeah, you were renting me a place, but you kicked me out in March of 2023 because you're a supporter of Joe Biden. And McKelly says, that's not true. I haven't even seen you since 2019. But it's hard to take his friend seriously when you know that his friend is a supporter of Joe Biden. So he could be lying there on the stand as Kennedy's saying, no, I was a tenant of yours and I was renting a place and I'd come and stay. And that's where I stayed when I was in New York, which was a lot. His wife, Nancy Steiner, told jurors that she was upset at being described as a landlord by a once dear friend from whom she grew sadly distant because of his public stances and comments. Okay, so she thinks he's an anti-vaxxer, right? She thinks that he's one of those conspiracy theorists. So she was his friend until he showed his true colors and he was a conspiracy theorist. And now they're testifying against him in court saying he was never a renter of ours. He was just our friend and he stayed. Yeah, he stayed a lot, but he wasn't a renter. Kennedy says, yes, I was. I lived there. I was a renter. That was my residence in New York that I kept. So the ballot petition lists his residence as New York. So this PAC is saying you lied. You don't really live in New York. You actually live in California. And that will cause, so they're wanting to invalidate his current ballot access in the state of New York by saying you lied. And then the question is, well, why did he potentially lie? And the reason is because he chose Nicole Shanahan as his VP, and she's from California, and he needed to be from a different state. So this could have been avoided had he chosen a different VP from a different state, right? Then he could have just listed his residence as California. It would have mattered. Nothing would have mattered whatsoever. Because he chose Nicole, he had to say that he was from a different state in order to avoid the constitutional crisis of the 12th Amendment. And so he listed New York. Now those people that he supposedly rented from, whether he did or he didn't, are claiming he never did. And in fact, he's lied on his ballot petitions in the state of New York, which would invalidate his candidacy in the state of New York. So there is a possibility Kennedy's kicked off the ballot in New York. After going through all the work, after getting the army of people to get all the signatures, there's a possibility he's kicked out of the state, off that ballot, because a Democratic super PAC supporting now Kamala Harris is extremely undemocratic, won't leave well enough alone, won't just let the best man, woman win when it comes to the actual election, and instead decides to take him to court to get him removed. That's the new Democratic way. But that is what's happened with the Kennedy case. So we'll keep you posted on whether or not he's going to be kicked off the New York ballot. It is fundamentally undemocratic. I don't care if you were a supporter of Robert F. Kennedy or not. This is fundamentally undemocratic for a Democrat super PAC, or even if it was a Republican. It doesn't matter the political leaning of the super PAC. It is undemocratic for anybody to take another to court and say you should not be on the ballot. People should not be allowed to vote for you. People want to vote for you, which is why I want to remove you from the ballot, and they shouldn't be allowed to vote for you. And I'm afraid of them voting for you because it's going to kill my candidate's chances. And I don't want that. So I have to game the system and I have to get you kicked off. That is so fundamentally undemocratic. There's, of course, no law against them doing this, but it should be considered culturally shamed. This should be culturally shamed. This should be culturally inappropriate. We should say that we are a country that believes in democracy and that this is anti-democratic, and it should be condemned by the Democratic Party. But we're not seeing any of that, are we? No, none. Hey guys, this was just a clip of a longer show. Catch the full show by going to KimIversonShow.com. It is free. It airs Monday through Friday, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern. You could go back now and watch this full interview. I highly recommend it. Again, go to KimIversonShow.com. Thank you so much for watching.